Good evening. Welcome to the Red Hook Town Board meeting of March 27th, 2019. Would you all be kind enough to join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Steve. I have on the screen the agenda for tonight's meeting for the folks at home. Okay, very good. We're going to start this evening with some announcements. I wanted to let folks know we have some playground subcommittee members with us this evening. As you know, we are redoing our playground, actually two playground areas in Rec Park, and we have a wonderful community build event going on for 2 weekends. That's May 3rd, 4th, 5th. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The hours of which are 8 to 6 on all 3 days. What we don't accomplish on the first weekend, we'll need to do on the second weekend. That's May 10th, 11th. That's Friday, Saturday. Those 2 days, the following day is Mother's Day, May 12th. So hopefully we'll be all finished with everything by then, or at least the build portion of it by May 11th. May 11th also happens to be Apple Blossom Day here in the village, so we want to let you know about that. Also, there's a Spring Senior Expo. The Town of Red Hook Senior Services Committee is having a senior expo at the Red Hook Community Center, Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if you have not been to the community center, I encourage you to go there and see the many activities and spaces that are available for all of us in our town. And that's on 5th Street, just off of 199. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that the census is coming, or actually the census is here, and so the census is actually looking for some workers. If you know of somebody who is interested, the pay is $18 an hour, and you get excuse me, you get mileage compensation if you're driving around, and it's all to the benefit of the public to update our information. And so you can look at the information 2020census.gov/jobs, or just Google 2020 Census Jobs, and you can find out more information about that. Okay. Are there any other announcements that folks have? All right, we would encourage you again to go to our website, sign up. I did mention that, yeah. Go to our website and sign up for notifications on topics that you are interested in. This way you won't find yourself unaware of something that's of importance to you. So that's redhook.org, notify me. Okay, any other announcements? If not, public comments? Do we have some public comments? Linda.
Linda Keeling. Couple of things. Number one, I'm glad to see that you're now putting the superintendent of highways higher up on your list. Instead of being number 10, she's number 2, which is good.
I don't know that we have her as number 2.
Well,
but
close. It's better than number 10.
Okay.
All right. Number 2.
Yeah.
I did go to the Red Hook Community Center and worked with Sarah Lucolini. Went through all the building, the doors, and everything. So she knows what needs to be upgraded. And your comment that it's not your building,
Yeah.
maybe it's not in the town, but you're giving $10,000 to programs, so you have to make sure that it is accessible.
Yep.
And number 3, I had number 3. I'll forget it.
That's okay.
That's
You
good
can
for
always
now.
shoot us an email.
Good.
Linda.
That's good for now. Oh,
Thank-
no, got it.
Okay, good.
All right. I sent you a letter on March 13th regarding ADA as far as emergencies, in hopes that the Dutchess County can upgrade its website to include all of the households that have specific needs in case of a 911 emergency, so they know how to handle what they expect. Maybe a person in a wheelchair, or they can't talk, can't see. So we can better help those people get through the emergency.
Okay,
So I wrote you a letter, but I didn't get anything back from you.
okay,
And you've done that a couple of times.
okay. Well, thank you, Linda. I know Hyping Way and the Disaster Preparedness Committee are working on updating our emergency management plan. And so we'll see what they have, included in that portion of it.
And could you get the information on the website? There's nothing there about who to contact.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that in your letter, and I had also noticed that, and I will reach out to Hyping if
Yeah, she actually
else has.
just dropped off a draft of it to my office an hour ago. So,
But
we'll
it's
have
not the
it
plan, it's that there's no contact at all for the committee.
on the website. There's
Yeah,
no
right.
contact.
Right.
So
Okay.
Linda was asking, could we at least put an email or, whatever Hyping is
Sure,
comfortable
sure,
with? So
sure,
I'll
sure.
reach out to her if you don't, and.
Good.
and,
No. Please do,
to
since
see
it's
what-
website.
Yeah, see
And
what.
if she has a report, please put that on there so I can look at it.
Yeah, of course we will.
Okay, good. Our first order of business, there are a couple things going to be added to the agenda. One is a quick update of financial report, and the second is we'll be talking about a highway truck as well. But the first order of business is a resolution recognizing April as Parkinson's Awareness Month. It's a resolution we do each and every year. We have many members in our community who suffer from this debilitating disease, and we've been asked to, again, recognize it. And so we have this proclamation, which we've supported, and I'm wondering if we will again support it, April being Parkinson's Awareness Month. Okay by you, Bill?
Yes, I support
Okay.
it.
Sarah?
Definitely okay with me.
Okay, so I'll just make a motion that we once again approve this proclamation, which speaks to the progressive neurological disorder known as Parkinson's, and it talks about many things that are currently being worked on for that population. And all in favor? Aye.
Did somebody second that?
Second.
I think.
Okay, thank you. I thought so, yeah. Okay, good. Well, we have back with us the water board chairman. It seems like you've been here a lot, Hank. I mean, not that we're complaining.
For a few years,
We,
yes.
for a few, no, that's not what I meant. You know what I meant. So, you are here to talk about the very exciting topic, hopefully not, called Red Hook Water. And so, it's your annual report of 2018 operations, and let's see if maybe I have that through the miracles of technology, which last meeting didn't work so well, by the way. Here we go.
Here we go. Okay, if you don't mind, I'll remain seated
Okay,
because my standing is not that good.
okay. Steve, will you be able to hear him, or should we move the mic a
We're
little
fine,
closer?
we're fine.
You're fine?
Okay, I'll try to speak up also.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, first, the topics are same as every year, for those of you who might remember them, but who we are, what we did last year, our plans and goals for this year, water quality, which is always of some interest, future considerations, there's a couple, and then our financial review for the last comparison, the last 3 years, 4 years. And then our operations summary, what we pumped and what we built, etc. Okay, who are we? The Water Board. Glenn Amrod and Michael Roomberg joined us last year. Two good people. Glenn, for example, is an engineer with Lehigh Engineering. They just opened an office on East Market Street last year. He's been working with our operator, Fernando. The village has been having some problems with switching over from elevated tank to pumps for pressure. And anyway, Glenn and Fernando have been working on that. Nick Annis, you probably all know. Larry Carr, you may not know, but he's been on the water board for a few years. He happens to be a neighbor of mine. And his wife, Betty Carr, has been on various town committees. Greg Files, a longtime member, just a good, smart guy. He's an engineer with Roton. But he's got a great memory for history of the district, probably better than mine. Jerry Gilnack had been a water systems operator, manager for 100 years or so. He retired, and now he's still at it with the County Water and Wastewater Association. Authority, that is. Anyway, and then there's Carol Little, retired, replaced very ably by Doreen Bono, and me.
Did you want to say a little bit about Michael? I think you may have skipped
I
over Michael there.
Yeah, I met two and then I skipped over. Michael is a financial-oriented guy, and he, for example, last year suggested that we invest some of our reserves in better money returning investments. And Robert agreed, and we were going to do it, but in December the rate that was supposed to be didn't happen, and so we didn't get the investments made. And it's just as well, because I think you're all aware of the New York class investment, and that gives us a super opportunity to invest not just some of the reserves, but all, because the money is available. So anyway, but Michael kind of kicked that off, and he's going to do a spreadsheet of some kind, looking at our expenses and income, and he just hasn't gotten to it. So, but anyway, another good guy.
Good. And you should know the money is already at work.
Okay, that was a question. I wasn't sure. Good. Already at work.
Already at work for all our funds. Yeah.
600,000.
600,000 for that, but there's quite a bit more for the other funds. That it's a good time. It's an interesting time in interest rates for those of you who are nerds in this area. You know, we recently had what's called an inverted curve. So actually, the long-term rates are lower than the short-term rates. So it's a good time for us as we're going bonding. So we're going to get great rates, hopefully, with our credit rating as good as it is. And yet, you know, our reserves and the money that we have during the course of the year that we don't need until the end of the year will be invested at almost similar rates.
Kind of beats the savings account, doesn't it?
It sure does. Yeah.
Okay. What did we do last year? Well, the big thing was we finally got our pump control variable frequency drive units installed. We did have a set of problems, and I don't go into too much detail, but we needed some special power wires. The reason we need special wires is the way the variable frequency drives work. They take the 60 cycle power coming in from power lines, convert it to DC, and then they change that DC to a variable frequency power level to drive the pumps. So you can control the speed of the pumps, which is what the village is trying to do here, to control their pressure within their system. We're not doing that. We're just using the variable frequency drives to start off our pumps at a lower frequency, therefore a lower power level, and hopefully avoid some of this demand charge, because they monitor your demand at extreme power, high power level, and then they slap a surcharge on you for everything you use during the month. So if we can avoid some or most of that, that would be good. Anyway, the VFD power, we had to replace the wires. What it is a set of square waves, essentially. So you're interrupting, you convert to DC and then you interrupt that and you get square waves. Well, technically a square wave consists of a basic frequency plus a bunch of harmonics which build up the edges of that square wave. Harmonics are the problem because something called impedance, AC current develops something in addition to regular resistance that you get in a wire. The impedance is related to the capacitance and inductance in the wire. And the higher frequencies incur high impedance. So anyway, we had to have new wires, $10,000 worth, which I think our engineer should have been aware of, but he wasn't, or he didn't. Anyway, we had a short in one of the well 2 pump motor. So we replaced that. And in the process of replacing it, since we had to pull the pump, that well had not been rehabilitated. The other well had a couple of years ago when we had a problem with it. But given that they're in the same aquifer and close together, we thought this one should really get rehabbed to prevent problems. What they do is stick a big brush down in there and rub it up and down with chlorine injected and whatever. And so they did that, and while they were doing that, they put in a tube such that we can, sometime this year, insert a probe for the well level measurement. Coincidentally, with that short in the motor, that VFD failed. And I was concerned that they would relate the short in the pump motor to the failure of the VFD, but that worked out okay. They replaced the VFD. Pump volumes were lower than anticipated. Well, like a lot of the smart controls, like you have in your car, sometimes they're frustrating. They're too smart. You know, these VFDs they're programmed to be aware of the limitations of the motor, the pump motor, the current limitations, which we had conveniently ignored up until that time, and ran it whatever it took to get us to 250 gallons per minute. Well, these VFDs said, no, that's too much power. That's too many, the current level is too high, higher than the pump rating. So anyway, we weren't pumping as much as we would like. Blend got involved with Fernando and then with the contractor, Jim Black. And Jim came up one day and they worked and adjusted and made some compensating, adjustment for the current, worked with the tolerances, and we got up to 220 gallons per minute. So that was good. Dutchess County Department of Health, another case where I think our engineer was remiss. I didn't know. I assumed that we were just replacing some power circuitry, so we wouldn't need a, health department approval. But the health department engineer disagreed, and I guess rightly so, because with variable speed drives, you don't pump the same volume all the time. Currently, our chlorine injection pumps operate at one speed, so you should have some correlation between your drive and your chlorine injector. We've got them set so they're okay. So anyway, we finally got agreement. The engineer provided a spec and the written approval of the installation such that the health engineer said, go ahead. Storage tank, we went over this last year, but I'll just briefly review it. Tighe & Bond did a study for us. The result of the study was it might have been a close decision, but they recommended rehabilitating the tank, painting it and updating it. I guess I was the primary one on the board that didn't quite like that idea, because if you rehab it, then every 15 or 20 years you have to do it again. Another $750,000 to $1 million. So in looking at it over a period of, 50 years or so, it's going to cost you about the same amount of money per year, whether you rehab the current tank and keep rehabbing it, or whether you spend the money up front on a new tank with minimal maintenance. Anyway, so we decided that we would rather not go for the rehab, wait and see what happens relative to how we could replace the current tank when we have to replace it. We should get 10 or 15 years out of it yet. I'm thinking now that maybe we would use a smaller tank, the same height, so we have the pressure, but then supplement in terms of, so that we don't have to have the amount of storage we have now. If we had a generator, we'd be in good shape. We lose power, we'd have a backup generator to provide the water. So we'll see. We will see. Oh, the radio link from the tank to the pumps gave us a lot of trouble last year. Wasn't working right, so they went up and they readjusted the antennas and raised the antenna, because since we installed the system, the trees had grown up and they were now blocking the signal, and so on and so on. So that worked for a while, and then the radio transmitter from the tank failed. The receiver down here at the pump house failed. And then the little pressure sensor on the pipe at the bottom of the tank, it failed. So we had a series of, we essentially have a new radio communication system. Meter probe, the meter probe used by the meter readers. We had installed some new meters. We can't get the old style. You probably have a little remote on the side of your house. We can't get those anymore. So we replaced them with some newer meters that required a probe. Stick this probe up against the remote and it gives you a digital reading. But then that probe didn't work with some of the intermediate meters, so what we did was order a set of new meters with the remotes. Now have a little, let's say a button that you push with your pen, and then you can read visually the meter reading. So we made that. That was a frustrating year.
I mean, I'll speak on behalf of the customers in your water district. If you ever need to not read the meter for a month or two, that's fine with us. We're...
Yeah, in fact, we've had to do that. Usually we can estimate close enough. Water rate increase, as you might be aware, you approved it back in December, and it's going into effect 1st of April. 5% a year. Hopefully we'll continue it for 5 years and see how it's going. I really think we're going to need it because our water mains are still good. They seem to be. But the older ones are 60 years old. The next oldest ones are in the 50s, and there are no good estimates for the lifetime of this pipe. The original stuff that was put in is something called transite. It could fail at any time. 100 years would be a really good lifetime. I expect maybe more like 75 or 80, but we'll see. But anyway, those were big expenses, plus the tank replacement. Okay, where are we?
Water quality.
Water quality, okay. All okay. We test for turbidity constantly, and they monitor the readings and then average them out for the month. Given that we filter down to 1 micron, 5 micron, one cartridge, a set of cartridges, and 1 micron the next set. So, we're not going to get much dirt turbidity through that. Bacteria, we've always been good. Disinfection byproducts, the things called haloacetic acids and trihalomethanes, we've never had a problem. We would have expected problems like down on the end of the system, but we've been good. Nitrates we test for yearly. Harry was concerned about nitrates because of the dairy farm out here and the way they dispose of their liquid manure. but we've never seen an increase in our nitrates measurements. Principal organic contaminants, those are the naturally occurring minerals in the soil, asbestos, lead, antimony. Lead just gets tested differently, but. And then synthetic organic chemicals, man-made stuff, whether they're herbicides or pesticides. Or a well-known one from a few years ago was MTBE. And then lead and copper we had to do, and that's okay. That's an every 3-year test. We have to sample 10 households.
Do we get tested, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Hank, do we get tested for PFOA, PFOS?
No. We don't have standards for that yet. I think they're looking into it, but we don't have. It's not on our list of things to test for, and I don't think there are standards if we did test it.
Yeah, and I know they're developing standards now,
Yeah.
the EPA lowering them.
Yeah. We don't have any,
levels.
we don't seem to have any sources around here that would have led to PFOA contamination. You never know.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free to interrupt. I hope you do.
Well, what does FOA stand for?
Who knows?
The acronym is,
Yeah, it's some kind of.
It's the contaminant that was up north of Albany. There's been some manufacturing sites, and the disposal of these PFOAs caused some water
the
problems.
404.
Oh, okay, so they were wondering whether we had that, you were wondering whether we have that situation here?
Yeah.
Well, I know that they've tested the village for it.
We don't seem to have had the kind of installation, manufacturing facility that would have disposed of
Oh, okay.
PFOAs. It doesn't mean we can't
We have
have
no
them.
manufacturing facility at all.
Well, we had a chocolate factory.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so it's perfluorooctanoic
Well, I don't need.
acid.
I
You won't
thought it was a
remember.
simple- I thought it was a
Basically,
simple thing.
it's like a carcinogen or,
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
good.
got a lot of bad health issues related to it. Hoosick Falls is like probably the closest one to us, right? That's in
Well,
Rensselaer County.
Newburgh.
And
Newburgh, right, and Newburgh, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
they did have that.
But they're,
From the Air Force
when you look
Base.
at it, it's always right, it's always where a really big type of factory, like Honeywell, I think, which does like thermostats is the one that's up in Rensselaer.
So in
like-
Newburgh, the
The Air Force
primary
base.
vector was use of firefighting foam.
Yeah, the firefighting foam.
Fire retardant, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, so you're right that it seems like we don't, but also that
But,
it's
you know,
enough of an
when-
issue that we should be aware of it.
when we get the standards and the requirements, then we'll test. Or if people are concerned, we can test before we get a requirement to test, as long as we have a standard.
Yeah, but it'd be good to know, I think.
Our annual inspection, the health department engineer comes around usually once a year. He has skipped occasionally, but anyway, he came in December and seemed to be happy, but his letter, which we received 3 or 4 weeks ago, said we have a problem. Well, his concern relates to the inspection of the tank that happened in 2017, and one of the concerns mentioned by in the inspection report was the ventilation at the top of the tank, which conforms with the requirements that existed at the time the tank was built, but he has some concern. So we discussed it at the work session and then at the water board meeting, and I'll try to respond and say we'll fix that with the next inspection. And we'll also clean the sediment out of the bottom of the tank. He's somewhat concerned about that, although again with our filtration we don't build up any appreciable amount of sediment. So we'll see if he'll buy that response. Okay, plans and goals. I had these out of order a little bit. Just ongoing, normal production, quality monitoring. We do want to install well level monitors. It's not something that we're very concerned with because those wells are so awesome. The aquifer level has never dropped, even during a drought. And but we want, we should do it. We should be able to monitor the well levels. Do our periodic water tests, nitrates again the disinfection byproducts, a different set of principal organic contaminants, and then coliform, 2 tests a month. And something that's already done, invest our reserves in New York class. In the future, we'll consider to think about alternatives to a large tank. And we'll be monitoring for leaks. We have been very fortunate, haven't had any leaks, but, I mean, nothing major. But we'll have to be aware. Okay, what are we next? Our financial. Our income has stayed pretty constant. No real variations, except 2016 when Bard used a lot of water. I noticed there's a little anomaly there in 2017 under non-water income. I must have counted something like the penalties and so on in that, where normally I don't. So that number is bigger in 2017 than the normal, but the total is, in fact, it's exactly the same this year as last year. Okay. Expenses were high this year because we paid for those, that pump control upgrade. What else? We had, of course, the power wires, the pump motor, which was probably 7,000 or so. And then the tanks to pumps, radio problems. The reserve status has not changed. We weren't able to add to the reserves last year because we spent the money on our pump control. But now it's nicely invested in New York class and should be bringing us in $12,000 plus a year in addition to our revenue. So that's good. It looks like unreserved balance around 60,000. Ann tells me that's like a year-end number, so we don't know from month to month or day to day just exactly what it was. She knows, but we don't. So it looks as though we ought to be able to get some money, 20, 30K or so, and put it into the reserves. That would be good. Operation summary. The numbers stayed, in terms of pump per day, we're up a little bit. And again, annual gallons pumped, that was up a little. And the reason they were up is with the radio control signal from the tank, we had to operate the pumps manually. So we overflowed the tank many days just to be sure we had enough. So we pumped a lot more than we built. But that's the reason for it. But that's the number, and that's a 77%, the pump to build ratio, which should be and used to be up around 90%, and that's really good. And if we can get back there and stay there for a few years, that'll be good. Otherwise, as I say, we'll monitor that. That's a good indication that of a significant leak. Usually we would know anyway. We would spot a leak along the road somewhere, but you never know. We have some leaks or pipes through the woods, so you don't know. Nobody's going to walk back there. Number of service connections only went up by 1. That's about it for the operations.
So Hank, if I'm doing the calculation correctly, we do about 2.5 million gallons a year?
I think that's true, yeah. That's
We bill about, I was just doing
about 32 gallons pump, yeah. Gallons billed, 25 million.
Oh, 25 million, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what, 25 gallons, okay. All right, well, it's good to know. Now, one question I have is, do we ever need backup water? Because one of the things we're working on is our natural resource ordinance and thinking in terms of the one operation we do have, the collection of spring waters. Do we ever need those as a backup?
No,
We've
we
never-
haven't.
Okay.
It's our backup, the last 2 or 3 times we've needed it has been the village. We do have the village interconnection, and they don't have they don't have water enough to run us constantly, but
Right.
if we hook up to them, turn it on in the evening, and then just use their flow to fill our tank, then we turn it off in the morning, so we're not really impacting them, and that has worked. But we haven't done it for more than several days, so that is our real backup. We've never, you mentioned the springs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we developed this current water supply, when the Annandale water supply was on Aspinwall Road, right next to the pond, yes, they bought water frequently,
Okay.
constantly almost.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you very much, Hank.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, well, that's the easy part. Running the water district is the hard part. You do such a great job of it. I think you know, listening to your report, you would think that things go wrong occasionally, but you know, from what I hear, the folks in the water district, you know, are very happy with the service they're getting, and
They should be.
probably
You know,
don't even
it's
know
good
half of
water
those
at a
things
good rate.
happen.
What more do you?
Yeah.
It's pretty reliable.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions for Hank?
No, not at all.
You
Thank
got-
Hank.
You got all that technical stuff, Bill, there,
Yeah.
when he
Yeah,
was
well,
going
I-
on to the...
All the harmonic
I follow it
business.
all right.
Harmonics are good in music. They're just not so good when you're transmitting power.
I just think how Ray Rose would be very, very proud of your presentation tonight and the detail of your report.
Yeah. Ray, I think he
He
would
had
look
a
forward to it.
special feeling for the town of Red Hook and especially for the water district.
Yeah.
We were very, very benefited by having his services in the brief time that he was with us. But
Oh, yeah.
he would be very proud of you tonight.
Well, we are very thankful for having had Ray
Yeah.
get things started.
I was just thinking, listening to your report, that it reminded me that a bunch of neighbors were worried. I think it was sometime, I live in the water district, so that's why I'm bringing it up. I think it might have been when the hydrant flushing was happening, you know, one of those times when your
Sure.
water's gonna be turbulent.
Oh, yes.
And it made me think that we should maybe create an alert on the website that you could sign up for specific to the water district.
Well, that would be good. We did have the note on the
And
water.
then we could have maybe, make sure that we have a protocol where maybe it's Jackie or somebody here, you know, would be the one to.
Where do I
You know,
think
things
that we
like-
notified on Flushing, didn't we?
Well, we might have, but I
There's
don't
always
think,
a news brief that
there was
comes
a
out.
news brief, but the
It's
thing is that
in the
people didn't know about it.
newsletter.
People didn't know about it,
Oh, okay.
like they don't know, you know, the website's still too new. And so I told them like, you know, you need to go on and sign up for this, and some of them were like, well, I don't want all the general town press releases, I just
Tell
wanna
them
know about my
whatever
water.
subject.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we, you know, it wouldn't hurt,
That
it's
would be
free,
good.
you know, it's
An
easy
alert.
to create an alert, so
That'd be good.
I'll try to do that, and then if we do it, then you could put that in your next newsletter to, you know, the next bill or whatever, so that people would know, they could,
Yeah,
you know, the ones that want to could sign up and.
the next newsletter will be in the end of June or
Okay,
July.
so, yeah, so we get to do that, and, I don't know, might help some people.
Yeah, it's frustrating for people when they turn on the faucet and they get dirty water.
Right.
You ever do that, Chris?
I haven't noticed it oddly.
No.
Maybe I pay attention to my water bill notices.
Good girl.
I mean, I think if you're not at home during the day, it's usually during the day, and by 5,
Yeah.
6 o'clock at night, it's all settled out,
Right.
and it's not a
Yeah.
problem, so I've hardly ever noticed it either, but, you know, if you're at home all day and you're trying to do laundry or whatever, then I guess maybe you notice it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We've only had one of those kind of complaints.
Yeah.
Over all the years
Yeah.
that I know.
I know.
Really?
Someone tried to do their laundry and it wound up dirtier than it went in.
Well, and if that's our biggest problem, then we're
Yeah.
gonna get
Well,
straight
it happens.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll work on that with maybe with Jack or
Okay,
somebody.
that's a good idea.
Okay.
Great,
Because,
thank you
you know,
very much,
we-
Hank.
publish in the newspaper, like the
Yeah,
radio
I know, you do your
stations,
best.
Do what we
and put it on the website, but
Yeah.
We're gonna have to leaflet the neighborhood. Maybe that's a job, a volunteer. Thank you again, Hank, for all your great work over the years.
again, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we are moving on because we do have a bunch of things on the agenda and an attorney-client session coming up afterwards. So the third item is fund balance policy.
I have all the time in the world.
We had 3 recommendations from the comptroller's office on, after they did the audit of our funds. And one of those recommendations was to reduce the high end of our unappropriated fund balance. We had a fund balance policy that called for maintaining between 30 and 70%. And even though the comptroller's office says, no, we don't tell you what kind of fund balance you should maintain in these various funds, they kind of do. So they asked us in the audit to consider lowering the reducing unrestricted fund balance and using the funds as a financing source, yada, yada, yada. So the other recommendation they had was with our fund balance policy is if it should fall too low, indicate over what time period that you would replenish that fund. And so 2 minor changes are proposed for your consideration. One is to maintain the maximum unappropriated fund balance is 50%. I think we're running right now around 53%. But we do have projects coming in. I'm talking specifically in terms of the A fund. We do have projects coming in. So this revised fund balance policy has those 2 changes: 50% and to return the fund balance to at least 30% within 3 years. So those are the 2 minor changes to the policy. And I'm wondering, any?
There should be a date on this Town of Red Hook fund balance policy. Am I missing a date?
I agree.
Yeah, it should have a date today.
Principally posted.
So 3/27,
So it's the Town of Red Hook fund balance policy
amended fund balance policy.
amended.
And they recommend we look at this each year, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we passed one last year.
So I move the resolution.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. Teresa, I think we're up to your items. We've talked about mailbox policy, and thank you for taking our comments and revising the policy. We've, I guess, wanted to have a mailbox policy for years now, and so it would be good to have something in place for the benefit of our residents and for the highway department. There's some changes that are proposed over the course of the process. I think we've been looking at this now for quite some time, many months. I personally am okay with the mailbox policy, but I would want it to be, I think I've said before, just for new installation. But other than that, the policy seems to be fairly clear. Obviously, mailboxes will need to be moved if they are at all, a danger to our equipment or to motorists on the road. I mean, that would be my only suggested changes, to make it for new installations.
Well, we put, all new mailboxes shall be installed in compliance with these specifications. And then we added, mailboxes that are damaged by routine highway maintenance operations and are replaced or reimbursed by the town shall be reinstalled according to the town mailbox specifications. So if it's an old mailbox installation that's constantly being damaged and the resident wants it replaced, then we feel that it's important to replace it according to these guidelines so it won't be damaged again. If it's damaged and they don't want it replaced and they don't want to move it and it's not a hazard, then it's not affected. But I think you have to have some kind of protection if the town is going to spend money on replacing a mailbox, then these guidelines will ensure that it's put in the proper place. And then the existing installations, we don't really have, other than the ones that are damaged or are known to be a hazard or identified as a hazard. It's not meant to review all the old installations in town and start pointing out, oh, this one wasn't installed according to the guidelines. So the new is in there, and it also helps when people put in new driveways,
Right.
so that they're placed properly. So we did make that change to say new and not existing.
Well, just to explain my reticence, it goes back to the days of learning about zoning many years ago, and I just remember being schooled in the fact that you really shouldn't consider, unless it's, you know, absolutely critical, any kind of zoning ordinance whereby many or a large population in your community would be non-conforming. And as I drive the roads and I take a look, because I want to make sure that I'm informed of what the current situation is, it seems to me that either through pavement creep, which I think I've expressed over time, you know, is a real thing or was a real thing in the town of Red Hook and many other communities. Many of these boxes would now not be in compliance, and so I could see us spending an enormous amount of time.
Well, and I
Yeah.
understand your concern, and
Yeah.
that's why we put in the language, new installations. It doesn't say existing installations have to comply. It says new installations or installations that we pay for.
Yeah.
So it's only those two circumstances unless it's a safety hazard. So we're
I
not,
hear
we're
you.
not
I think that
saying,
second sentence covers what you're talking about.
Well,
that's why,
Like, is there a specific language change you're proposing? Because I'm not sure, I read it the same way you do, like, I don't see a risk to existing
I mean, if it's not
installations like my
replaced or
own that are
reimbursed by the
non-conforming.
town.
yeah,
the only existing is any existing mailbox installation that is determined by the highway superintendent to present a hazard
yeah, I'm fine with that.
shall be brought into compliance with these specifications. So that covers the existing, and the rest of it covers the new or the reinstalled that the town has paid for.
Yeah, it's that reinstall part. I could just see, you know, I know how much time I've spent already with residents on mailbox issues, and I'm concerned about, you know, let's say we accidentally knock the mailbox off, and then a resident makes a request to have the mailbox replaced, and then comes to find out that the location of the post and the box and whatever has now changed because it has to come into compliance.
Well,
explain
no,
it to them.
we would identify, I would identify and say, you know, the reason, if we made the mistake and the mailbox was not in a place that it could be hit easily and we went off the road or, you know, something happened like that, we're not gonna make them move their mailbox. But we see mailboxes that are 2 feet high, and we see mailboxes that are leaning like this.
Yeah.
And they're just bound to get hit.
I don't see a problem, like if residents, if the town is going to install it for you, and I assume that you're not just gonna show up and reinstall it
No,
differently, you're
no,
gonna
no.
explain to them, like, either in writing through a letter or in person, and show them the policy and explain, like, we're happy to reinstall this for you, but just so that you know, like, here's our guideline, and this is why we would do it differently, and
Because-
I mean, they have the right to say, no, forget it, I'm gonna reinstall it myself in
That's
the
exactly
non-compliant
it.
way, I assume.
Because why would we want to put the mailbox
I
in
know.
the same
I hear
place
you.
if it's going to get hit because it's not
I hear
placed properly?
I
And the bottom line is, this is a town right-of-way.
Yeah.
The town has the right to determine what belongs in the right-of-way. And if the mailbox doesn't meet the town guidelines or the US Postal Service guidelines, then we really shouldn't permit it to be there if it's not installed properly. because it could become a liability issue. If we went and reinstalled a mailbox in a place where it shouldn't be, and someone had an accident with that mailbox, then the town is liable because they've reinstalled it. So it's
Well,
only the
I-
ones that we reinstall for the residents that we pay for.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, we're not going to do anything about it. It's to increase the safety, it's to protect the investment that the town is making, and it's to educate the public, basically, because half the mailboxes out there are not even installed to the US Postal Service guidelines.
Well, that's my concern, and I don't dispute anything you've said, but you would be surprised, Sarah, how much discussion you end up having with constituents about the location of their mailbox and debating with them over where that mailbox can go. And so that's my concern, is that I just see this as being a real time-consuming thing, because so many people are out of compliance with something that we're passing.
When you, hold on, Teresa, but when you say time consuming, or like, help me understand how it complicates. If, I would have thought having a policy to point to would make it a little simpler to have those discussions.
Have a
but-
form letter
If
and
you-
send them a
if
copy.
you're
You're saying-
relocating somebody's postal box, they're not always happy about where it needs to be relocated. That's all I'm saying. Again, I'm not taking a position,
mean-
I'm just saying you'd be
I guess I'm just
surprised.
saying, like, if we have to do it right now, like if, before pre-policy,
Yeah,
then you are gonna have to have this long discussion about, well, here's why we really think it ought to be moved 2 feet this way and whatever. But if you've got a really clear policy, I mean, this is a short, sweet policy, there's nothing complicated about.
it's not the complication of the
Yeah.
policy.
But then,
It's a
then you can show it to them
clarification.
and say
Yes,
like,
no, this is
you know,
not a complicated policy.
It's
That's not the issue. This
So
is
let's-
fine.
yeah.
The
And
issue is that,
we're the people who reinstall the mailboxes.
yeah.
We're the people who are the front line with mailbox damage.
Yeah.
We're the people who have to deal with the residents.
Yeah.
So in my experience, if
Yeah.
there's something wrong with the location and we're able to tell them what it is, they're grateful to have that information because then it won't happen again. And again, this is the town right of way.
Yeah.
We allow mailboxes, but we should allow mailboxes that are installed properly. And new or reinstalled at our expense or our liability.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and every time that we have this mailbox conversation, this is just a clarification. And it's not an unusual policy. There are many towns that have policies like this. And we're not trying to have everyone relocate their mailboxes.
Do we, can you tell me, do the guys keep like a little log or something when they go around to sort of keep track of something, the wingman or something, if they hit a mailbox or something, so we can go out there? Or do you drive the roads and take a look and straighten them out or do anything like that?
Well, no, we don't, because that's not what we want to do. We don't want to go and police mailboxes. That's not part of our job.
No, I'm saying if we accidentally hit it, do we?
Oh, yes, they have to come back to the shop at the end of the route, and I say, any damages out on the road, and they will list whatever happened.
Okay.
And then either I will reach out to the resident, or the resident will reach out to me, and then we tell them what the procedure is, if they want to replace, if they just want to fix it, you know,
Okay.
we have a conversation with each person who
Okay.
reports or gets damage reported.
Okay.
And sometimes they won't even have time to call us, we've already fixed their post.
Okay.
But sometimes they'll say to me, you know, this is really a problem mailbox because it's 2 feet high, or it's leaning out in the road, or it's over the edge of the road.
Yeah.
So in that situation, we would like to be able to say, we'd love to reinstall your mailbox and do it properly.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I just, my concern is, and hopefully it won't happen, but some of the roads that have become widened over the years have now made people who installed their, boxes in a safe place, and now the box is closer to the road, and so hopefully we won't have too many issues moving forward.
I don't think
but-
you're going to see many issues. I don't think you're going to have a lot of issues with putting this policy in place personally.
Okay. So we'll be
If we do,
more.
we'll amend it again.
Okay, we'll be cautious about moving the posts, you know, until you feel comfortable that it needs to be moved. The posts I'm talking about. We'll take the posts for the mailbox, because that's part and parcel of this, is if we knock the mailbox off, they can move the post. And I think that's becomes an issue. And in many cases, you have to realize that in many cases, the post sits on somebody else's property. It doesn't even sit on the homeowner's property.
Which is another liability.
Right. So it's actually a lot trickier than it should be.
But again,
Get
I don't
people.
see, if you're a homeowner and your policy, and your
if we're
mailbox,
hitting the
God forbid, is on
mailbox-
somebody else's property, you should be grateful to the town for showing you a clear policy and saying like,
Yeah,
we will pay, you know, we are doing this for you.
and
I-
no problem with that. I think
And
it's our
just,
policy.
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
It feels like it's
And we would
making
only,
things more
you know,
clear and not less.
9 times out of 10, if we're just knocking the mailbox, it's the mailbox that's the issue. If we're knocking the post, because the post is too close to the road,
Yeah.
then it's the post that's the problem. But we would never just go out and pull somebody's mailbox and put it where we want it without discussing it at length with the resident
Okay.
first.
We'll try the guys will try to straighten out the post, put the box back, see what happens first, and see if that works.
If that's the issue,
Okay. All right. Well, fingers crossed.
I move the resolution to adopt
All right.
the mailbox specifications.
I'll second it. And
Okay.
if you want to amend it, can you do it after next January?
Can I do it after next January? Why is that?
So I won't be here.
I'll keep you posted.
Great, that's great.
What's the, that's
I'll
a
be,
fun.
it'll be the
actually.
first thing that I write to you about in January. You know I'm
Yes.
gonna be here with Linda next, starting in 2020. You and me,
Okay.
public
Okay.
comment every time.
Resolution number
31.
31, thank you, Sue. Dated March 27th, approving mailbox specifications on town roads. We have a first, we have a second. I think we've had plenty of discussion about this. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay. Buyer beware. All right, Schaefer Road dedication. This is hopefully a quick, easy one. Now, this little road, Schaefer Road, dropped off of the list.
On our local highway inventory, the state did an update, and we had Schaefer Road listed, and they saw in their mind that it was a private road. So they asked us for either the deed to the road or a resolution from the town that we agree to maintain it. And we've been maintaining it for over 10 years.
Right.
So we did a lot of research, and we were waiting to find out if there was
An interest, yeah.
an interest in abandoning it, because there's only one property. And we have found that there is no interest in abandoning it, so in order to put it on the local highway inventory to conform with CHIPS guidelines, we need a resolution stating that we do maintain it.
Okay. And that's what we have. And I will second the resolution number 32, which authorizes the addition of a road for the yearly update, a road that was on the list all these years in our local highway inventory. It's a tiny little road. Schaefer Road is at the northern intersection of 9G and Stony Brook Road and Lasher. Did I get that right? I think I got that right. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye, thank you all very much. All right, we have a resolution authorizing, I'm sure that title makes sense, but it's a resolution authorizing the solicitation of bids. It's the paving project, it's resolution number 33. We would like to take this opportunity to let you know that certain roads will be paved this year, Echo Valley Road and Middle Road. The reason I mention it is because it's just one more reason why you may want to sign up for notifications, because then we can let you know based upon the weather when paving may start on your road to keep you informed. And so we have to have a notice of public bids, and then we do have the bid package for the 2 roads. And we hope to go out to bid within the next week or so, yeah.
Teresa, as an aside, I mean, do we ever coordinate with Rhinebeck? Like, for example, in Middle Road, is it like half in our territory and half in theirs?
Yeah, we've done that in the past. We did Williams
let 'em
Road
know.
with Mylan.
Yeah.
So we did the paving and then Mylan reimbursed us. So I did reach out to Rhinebeck and ask the highway superintendent if he was interested in doing that, and they said it wasn't on their list of things to do. So we are not going to go all the way to the end to 9G.
Yeah, but at least they know that we're paving to that point.
Absolutely, yeah. Whenever we have a shared road like that where it just splits in the middle, we let them know what we're doing. I believe they did a little portion of Stone Church for us when they did their paving up there last time, so.
Okay. There's a pre-bid site visit, Tuesday, April 23rd at 9 a.m. Folks are interested in bidding on the project, and it's Echo Valley Road. It's the portion that was not done last year, the year before, something like that.
3 years ago.
3 years ago, time flies. And 4,500 feet in length for Middle Road. Very good. Any questions about this, or we can move this along? Okay, it's resolution number 33, dated March 27th, authorizing the solicitation of public bids for 2019 paving project Echo Valley Road and Middle Road, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thanks,
Any-
Teresa, for all the outreach you did to residents on Echo Valley Road, and, you know, like, to really
Yes.
looking at the issue and trying to, like, figure out what would be best there. It really,
Oh,
it was great to hear that, great to see that process play out.
Yeah, and it was really, it was good to do that with them. And we got a lot of positive feedback from that and learned a lot.
Great. Speaking of reaching out on roads, we don't have a date yet. We hoped we would tonight, but River Road, the Empire State Trail, the Empire State Trail Group in New York State Department of Transportation, sometime next month, would like to meet with residents to discuss their traffic calming measures for the road. And so, once again, if you sign up for notifications, we can let you know when that meeting will be in April. The long and short of it is there's a lot of speed tables, they call them. Those very gradual, 3 to 4 inches, perhaps as much as 5, rise in the roadway over the length of 12 to 24 feet. That's being proposed during the course of River Road, from the bridge approach all the way on up through 9G where it intersects. Most of Bard College is already done with their traffic calming measures, but that's primarily what's being proposed to slow folks down. As you know, we passed a resolution which the county has supported and the state is supporting to lower River Road again from 35 miles per hour now down to 30 in conjunction with these other measures. But as soon as we know about the meeting, we will get the word out to you.
We just need to vote on 33, Robert.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Lastly, it's not on the agenda, but did you want to talk some more about the truck? Because I have a couple questions about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is in her, there's a whole thing that
There's
is
a
in the
letter.
Yeah, I'm just
report.
gonna
Yeah.
read what I sent to the board.
Right.
So the town highway department has 6 plow runs and 6 plow trucks. We have a plow truck scheduled to be replaced in 2020, which is truck 11. It has been on the capital equipment replacement plan provided to the board by the highway superintendent. The truck is nearing the end of its useful life and is showing signs of stress in the frame. To my knowledge, the town has not had a funded equipment replacement line in many years. Our trucks usually get replaced when they no longer pass inspection. Over the past few years, we have lost more equipment than we have replaced, which has left us without a spare plow truck. As the economy has improved, the wait time for new equipment has increased dramatically. Plow trucks are built to order, and we have been told by the vendors that it could take 18 months to get a new truck. A simple dump truck that was ordered in May of 2018 has not yet been delivered. We're hoping to get it by April. I would like to order our next truck as soon as possible in order to avoid spending another winter or two without our full fleet. We would hope to have it by the 2020 winter season, but that may take a miracle. We would need to encumber funds for the purchase order, but the first truck payment would not be due until the equipment has been delivered. I've talked to Ann Conway and Ted Cudsey, and I believe there are ways to accomplish this with the reserve fund balances in the DB fund, which is $460,000, or the B fund, which is $750,000. Our last plow truck cost $235,000. The new tariffs on metal and normal inflation increases could put that figure close to $260,000. By ordering early, we may see a saving for a 2019 build versus a 2020 build. We would save on repairs to the old truck, and there is a green benefit in the newer engines that have reduced emissions in the last 8 years. A new truck would have computerized controls for efficient salt spreading and safety features that were not available 16 years ago, such as backup cameras. The Highway Department needs equipment to operate properly. If we go without a plow truck, it affects the residents by reducing the level of service in the winter. It also affects the health and safety of the staff by extending the plow runs, which in turn causes increased overtime costs with fewer trucks doing more work. Please consider this a request of need, and perhaps the town board can find a way to replace equipment before it gets to the point of breakdown.
Yeah. Okay. You have it.
I sent it to everybody.
You have it.
Should be in your packet.
Well, I'll give it to you.
Well,
Yeah.
It's also in her report,
It's in the report.
like the monthly.
Yes,
report.
that was the
Monthly report.
board report
Yeah.
for this month.
Yep, that's where it's located. Okay, just a couple things. One, on replacement of equipment, I know that there's been delays, more historically on replacing equipment. I mean, the 4-year capital plan for equipment for highway called for expenditures of $740,000 between 2016 and 2019. We've already expended $855,000 in excess of that, and we're in March. It doesn't get you another truck. However, I understand that the truck is only going to last as long as the truck is going to last. So, we'll see what we can do about bringing that forward another year earlier. Well, let me just finish.
It was on the capital equipment plan for 2020.
I totally understand. We did fund a couple of other pieces of equipment that were not,
For
that were ahead
2020?
that were ahead of schedule in previous years. But that aside, we'll see if we can come up with a proposal to try and order this and have it fall in sequence. Unfortunately, I'm working on the multi-year capital plan, and so I had this payment due in '22. So I did not have this rolling off because we were...
In 2022?
The payment due from the borrowing, the acquisitions happened in 2021. So ordered in 2020, with payment due in 2021, with any borrowing payment to be in 2022. So if we need to move it, wait, hang on. So I'm working to see if there's a way that we can move that up in the schedule, given some of the numbers that are coming in, and we'll take a look at that. That's the first thing. My second question, and I know that you and I talked about this only briefly, is now that the Traditions project is no longer a possibility, but looks like to be a reality. They're under construction. My question again to you, is this the right size truck, given that those are sort of narrower roads? Or would we maybe benefit from you know, taking a look to see if there's something slightly smaller that is a little more versatile for some of our smaller roads.
We have a 1-ton pickup that we use for smaller roads.
Right.
So that would be the truck that would be assigned to the more narrow roads. What the concern is, you've got 10 miles of regular roads, and you're going to not have a truck to do those 10 miles. You can't use the 1-ton pickup in lieu of a 6-wheel truck. It's not a 10-wheeler that we're looking for, it's a 6-wheeler. A 6-wheeler is a little smaller than a 10-wheeler. The 1-ton pickup truck is smaller yet, but to replace one 6-wheeler in our regular plow run with another 1-ton pickup would not be sound.
So then my other question would be, would we be in a position to have enough smaller trucks, 1 ton or otherwise? I have the inventory here, but you know, we can discuss this further. Would we be in a position to have the smaller trucks, enough of them, to do, you know, this extra roads that we're getting for
Well,
Tradition?
the Traditions project, they project a 4-year build out. And our intent was to wait until the project was complete. So that gives you 4 years to decide if you're going to need another small truck. Now, we have not added anything to our inventory. We've actually lost equipment in our inventory that hasn't been replaced. And part of that is because we don't have that long-range plan. So we're stuck when we lose a piece of equipment and we don't have the finances to pay for it. So if we wait until January of 2020, and it's an 18-year build, it will be 2 years before we get that pickup truck, that 6-wheel truck. So that's 2021. If we wait until 2022, we're going to be without a truck for a couple of winter seasons, and that is the problem, is that we cannot perform the same level of service with less equipment, whether it be a reduced size piece of equipment or no piece of equipment at all. And it's unfortunate that we have to wait until it breaks down completely, and then, you know, you're talking about a truck that was purchased in 2001. It's a 2002 truck. We've spent over $32,000 in maintenance and repair. It needs a dump body that we took off last year, the budget. The dump body is $35,000. So if you want to buy a $35,000 dump body, and put it on an old truck that's only going to last 2 years, you're going to lose money. And if you keep dumping money into this truck to Band-Aid it, or if it breaks completely, you know, there's no good answer to that. The equipment replacement plan has been off from the time I started. Years ago, they had to buy 2 trucks at once because 2 trucks broke. And it threw off all the loans and everything else. So we're trying to, we had tried to in our 5-year plan, keep it at a level of $225,000 a year for the loans, but I don't know if that's been achieved. So another thing to look at is, if we had to replace all of our equipment now, it's $3 million. If each piece of equipment lasted for 20 years, and you bought a different piece each year, that's $150,000 per year. Now, we don't have a funded equipment line where if 1 year we don't buy the equipment, it rolls over to the next. Or if we don't buy a $150,000 piece of equipment, we buy a $90,000 piece of equipment, take that money and roll it over to the next. We don't have that at all. What we're on is uh-oh, it's broken, now we've got to scramble to get it. So something's got to give. Either we get back in line with the equipment replacement by its age, or I don't know what else to do.
No, that's absolutely what the multi-year capital plan is taking the long view and budgeting for each year and trying to spread out those costs and replace equipment before it ends up being in this situation. I think we have certainly put way more money in the last few years towards replacing equipment, whether, you know, more equipment's broken down or not,
And I think
than
that's
historically.
I think because the economy's gotten better, you've been able to invest in other places in the town as well.
Yeah.
So it's not as though we're saying, I want a compact excavator to add to what I have already. I'm saying, we have 6 runs, we have 6 trucks, we need to replace one. And if we don't, then the residents and the taxpayers are going to feel the consequences, because you're going to start extending hours, you're going to start wearing out the equipment you have, the people that you have, the return time, and the level of service is just gonna go down. There's no other way to do it. You can't borrow a plow truck and you can't rent a plow truck.
All right, but I'm still stuck on whether that's the one and only size truck that we can have. And so you're saying we might in 4 years need to look at getting another truck because we have traditions, a smaller truck, and that's where I'm struggling with why can't we look at a size truck that could work for a little bit more versatile?
Well, it wouldn't be more versatile, it's a specific. If you get a little truck for traditions, it's not gonna do your 10 miles of road. You're gonna take forever. You're gonna take twice as long in a 1-ton pickup as you would with a 6-wheel dump truck. So you have to get, if you're going to add roads, yes, you need to add equipment. But you can't replace the equipment that we use on a regular basis with a specialized piece of equipment that will only do the small roads and traditions.
What traditions, I mean, haven't we talked about like the possibility of, it seems like there's like a lot of solutions that might be able to happen that we could look at in the next 4 years.
We could do shared services with the
Such as the
village.
shared services with the village,
They
which
have
has
smaller trucks
more
too.
small trucks already, and that's already something that's like in their fleet that they're going to probably, I assume.
And close to their route as well.
Yeah, exactly, so it's like it's not like you're asking them to go like way across town or something, it's like a very obvious like shared services option. It doesn't really seem like a solution to this issue, which is really more of a like she's saying, we have a specific type of roadway that's not the traditions type. Like traditions will be very different than most of our town roads, you know, in terms of its narrowness and,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
although it is kind of a suburban style roadway, I mean.
we don't have any suburban style roadways though. As you've pointed out, like most of our roadways are rural roads with no, you know,
No, we have some
Curbing.
cul-de-sacs and stuff.
think
And
about
we
how
do
many
use the
curbs,
one-ton pickup in the
Yeah.
think of how many
cul-de-sacs.
curbs we
Yeah.
have in town.
You know,
that,
and then
you
you're
know.
gonna have to think about who's going to drive that truck.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I.
It's a very specialized addition to what we already have, and it has to be separate from what we already do, because it is different.
Well, I'm struggling with that, the idea that we would have to hire somebody, an additional employee and an additional truck for what is a very short run. I'm struggling with that. But,
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, and hopefully it won't be for another 4 years, because that's the expected time for them to fully complete that road. We do not want to take over little portions of the road,
Right.
because we're gonna run into problems with plowing into people's driveways, and then the construction vehicles running over the roads that are already there. So we've got time to think about that. What we don't have time is on this old truck that is having frame issues, that's gonna need a new dump body, that was on my equipment replacement plan that we talked about at budget time this past year. And I had no idea that it was not going to be a 2020 truck, that it was gonna be a 2021 or a 2022. You go into 2020 and now you're definitely gonna be in 2022, but you're spending 3 years with a truck that's going to break down.
if it's taking 18 months, then ordering in 2020 is not an issue according to the budget I had for that piece of equipment. But I'll go back and take a look and see, what we can do to move it up.
Because we don't have to pay for it till 2022, right?
Well,
No, it would be, if we ordered it and we got it 18 months from now, where does that put us?
that puts us in 2020. 2020. It says in 2020. And I
So
don't have
it's
it
like a
appropriated
year.
for 2020, so.
Well, in the past, we've been able to use money from the fund balances. And in this situation, you could encumber the funds from the fund balance and then start the payments when you decide to finance the truck in the future.
Well, I will work on that, see if we can get that done. I would just say that, you know, reducing the fund balance right before going to market is probably not the best idea to do right now, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't do that.
Going to market,
Going to market, which is when we go out for financing. So we've kept our,
financing
for projects.
for the A fund projects.
For projects in general, they look at our funds and our fund balance, and that's how we get our stellar rating and so on and so forth. So, but I will take a look at it and see if there's a way that we can figure out, you know, how to make this work.
I'm sorry that the truck is old and about to break down.
It's nobody's
It's nothing
fault.
that
No,
we
no,
can
it's
control.
It's
And
nobody's fault.
it is important to replace the
Of course.
equipment in a timely fashion. We have not been able to get to a 15-year replacement plan.
Right.
We're always at a 20, 22, 28-year replacement plan, which is not sound.
Right.
You're spending a lot of money in repairs. You're gonna have safety issues. You're not taking advantage of the new technology. So all those things would hopefully save you money in the short term.
Yeah, no, understood. We're just trying to get it all on cycle, which it should have been all along, quite frankly. And also making sure that when we buy equipment, is it the right equipment, because we don't want to be buying more equipment.
That's why you have the highway
I
superintendent,
know, that's the
because
questions
I
I
can
posed.
evaluate what type of equipment you need, because that's what we do.
No, I hear you. Okay.
Thanks, I really appreciate you thinking about this, because I feel like you are preparing us really well for, you know, and it's not like a, oh, shoot, we're gonna need to do this really quickly. You've given us time to really think about it and
If
figure
it
this
wasn't,
out.
you know, and one of the
You've
issues
really
is
thought of
that-
all the factors, you know,
it's
like
the-
your memo is very comprehensive, and as a board member, I just really appreciate all that information, because it really helps us wrestle with the issue, even though it's not easy.
And we can't control the time it takes to build a truck.
No, a lot of this is out of your control, but you're helping us be more informed, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe we should go to Canada and order it up in Canada
There you go.
Turn around.
for the tariffs.
Is this the same company that we got the last truck we're waiting on? It's not, right? It's a different one, though, right? This is a Western?
We didn't spec the truck yet,
Okay.
because we can't spec a truck without having authorization to start the process. They don't want to be bothered with,
But
you
the
know,
manu-
going through.
Do we know the manufacturer, though?
Well, we would like to get a Western
The
Star.
Western, yeah.
The dump truck is a Freightliner, which is like a sister to Western Star.
Okay.
But every single truck manufacturer at this point in time has a
Just
backup.
busy, yeah. Lots of roads. Okay, thank you again very much, Teresa. All right, we have agenda item number 8, that's a resolution to set public hearing on the amendment to the CPF project plan. There are actually 4 parcels.
Did you want to do 7, Robert?
Oh, I'm so sorry, thank you. Harry's not here for 7, I know he'd want to be here, but let's do 7. So, if Harry were here, he would say, this is very important, we have to get this going.
That's just a letter you wrote, right?
It's a letter I've drafted for your consideration. So the idea is that it looks like the sewer system is finally going in the village. Now that also has a lag time. That won't be in place probably soonest fall of 2021 in the village. I think they're hoping to go out to bid maybe in the fall, awarded in the spring. That's an 18-month construction project. And so there's this thought that maybe some of the landowners south of the village sewer district would want to join in lieu of having to replace their septic systems when they fail. And so we would want to do some feasibility studies. You know, we did this years ago when it was a joint village-town effort. So a lot of the work has already been done, but the system is different that the village is using now. And so as I discussed / debated with Harry this morning, we could not have done this years earlier because the system has changed, a good thing. You know, I don't know how many times folks want to do feasibility studies for us on the same area, but it's been suggested that we reach out to Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority and begin the process to at least study that possibility. Certainly a couple of the landowners are interested in taking a look at what might be involved and what type of cost associated with it. And we would get grants to do this kind of a study, and it would help us understand you know, what the possibilities are. So,
No harm in asking, it's good.
Sarah, did you have some thoughts?
It's just an important commercial-ish district, and I think it makes sense to be looking at this. I think the possibility of some kind of sewer has been discussed in the past as we've looked at the zoning in that area and the potential, so yeah, it seems like a really important
Good.
step.
Yeah, you know, we often hear about folks wanting more commercial in the district. Some folks want it, some folks don't. But this gives those landowners greater flexibility with their parcels, where they locate the buildings, so on and so forth, if it were to be extended down there. And so we've got a couple years to figure this all out. The folks in that district will get to decide if they want that. But this will at least update the information with this new system. So this is the first step. Okay. Would you like to make that motion, or did you already, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, all we have to do is approve you sending the letter.
That's it.
I don't think it's by resolution or anything.
Well, why don't you do a motion?
I make a motion that you send the letter that you've drafted to Water and Wastewater.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Harry is home sick tonight. We hope you feel better, Harry. I know you'll be happy to hear that that was approved. Okay. We have a resolution. We're back to number 8, which I skipped to. It's to set the public hearing to amend the CPF project plan. As folks may or may not know, we found out rather suddenly that the St. Sylvia's properties in the village of Tivoli were being put up for sale by the Archdiocese of New York. The village has not only the folks, but certainly a lot of the community groups and organizations and the village trustees and mayor are very nervous about not having those properties available for public benefit. The church would make a wonderful community facility. It comes with the rectory building as well, and least but certainly not least important is a very large parking lot, and the village of Tivoli needs as much parking as it can get, and so which connects to the rec park as well, so it would benefit the folks in Tivoli greatly. And so one of the uses of the Community Preservation Fund is to acquire historic properties, and if you've been in that church, you know just how historic and wonderful it is. And we have decided as a town board that we are going to pursue negotiations with the church to acquire that property or those properties. We need to add them to our community preservation project plan, and so we're setting a public hearing to do just that. We have 2 resolutions. One is first to classify the action, the potential acquisition, and to establish lead agency. That's type 1 action, and that would be resolution 34.
Yes.
Is that right?
So that's for classifying lead agency.
That's for classifying, yep, I think we should do that one first.
Right, and you have a draft full environmental assessment form and coastal assessment form that were prepared by Ted to accompany that.
Yep. And this is a very simple action, it's the potential acquisition. Nothing is being proposed for altering the properties. It's,
But the action is actually the
Is
adoption of the
classified.
plan.
right,
in this
adoption
case.
of the, right, the
Plan.
plan as amended to include those properties.
Correct.
So, we
So
have,
just to be super, super clear for the public, sorry, because
Yeah.
it's, I think it's hard for people to, what we're doing now, regardless of your preamble, is we're only talking about amending the CPP tonight. This has nothing to do with actually purchasing the property, whether that's a good thing
That's
or a
right.
bad thing,
That's
whether
correct.
it's even possible. This is simply an action to amend the plan to put those properties on the list.
that's right, so they would be eligible.
That's all this is that we're
For the
talking about
Friday,
tonight,
yep.
just to be clear. And
That's right.
also, I think we also maybe, just since we had a special meeting that was not televised, maybe we should just say that catches people up, that, so the town board has already met as a body to discuss this
Previously
issue.
authorized
Previously
the
authorized the
supervisor
supervisor
to
to
begin
begin negotiations, and
Yeah.
and we set a public hearing for this? For,
April,
for what? What did we set the public hearing for
So for consideration of the acquisition.
considering, okay,
Right.
the acquisition, so that is for what, April, our first
April
meeting in April?
9th, 7:30.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay, so,
Yeah.
sorry, I just thought, like, maybe we should just clarify that,
Yeah.
okay, so, let's keep going, go ahead.
Okay, resolution number 34. The town board of the town of Red Hook has proposed amendments to the community preservation plan, local law C, proposed of 2019 in the town of Red Hook. A full environmental assessment form EAF dated today was prepared for the proposed action. The board has reviewed the thresholds for type 1 and type 2 actions set forth under the regulations. And we've determined that there are no other involved or federal agencies on this matter. Since no other agency has approval authority for this proposed action. And that we suggest and resolve that the action is a type 1 action under SECR. And we declare ourselves the lead agency.
I move the resolution.
Second.
It's number 34, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you. So, then we have resolution number 35, which is that notice of the public hearing to include these properties that would be for,
I just want to note that it isn't just the St. Sylvia's properties.
Yes.
There are a couple of technical corrections included
Yes.
in the draft plan. Ted Fink, who, our planner who had worked on the original plan, has included two additional corrections in addition to the St. Sylvia's parcels. One is a small parcel that would provide potential trail access from Aspenwall Road to an 89-acre parcel, which is in the CPF, but the access point was not, so that is a correction. And then the second one was another parcel that an 89-acre parcel had an incorrect tax ID number that came to our attention. So that's just a technical correction that's being made at this time. So those are all being included in this amendment, the draft amendment, which Ted has provided to us. Okay,
so those Winnicke Trail parcels, yeah.
right.
Okay. So we need to set a public hearing. We already have one for 7:35 on the 9th. It would have been nice to have this one first, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Why don't we set it for 7:45? Shall we do that?
Is that by resolution and notice of a public hearing or
Yeah,
not?
there's a resolution establishing a date for a public hearing that
That's right.
should be in
This
the
one there?
packet.
That's
And
also
the
in the
notice is
packet.
attached to that.
No.
You may have already gone through it.
It should be right
You're welcome
together
to
with
use
those.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Okay.
Oh, this is the notice.
Right, and then.
You have the notice and the resolution.
And I just want to
so-
call your attention that also in your packet then is a form of local law. When we amend the CPF plan, it must be done by a local law process. So you're,
Local law, see.
right, so you're calling a public hearing, you would be calling a public hearing on the adoption of a local law, which then would implement that CPF plan amendment, okay? Okay.
So it's Resolution 35 establishing a date for the public hearing regarding the adoption of local law C to amend the community preservation plan. Did I so move?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So that's April 9th, our next meeting. Okay, very good. So we are now at the point in time where we have board reports.
Can I just ask before we launch into reports, this thing about the TAP sideway block grant? Are we gonna do that in a future meeting? Is this memo just for the board to look over, the one from Ken about,
Well, the extra money?
That's a
Yeah.
budget thing we're gonna take care of tonight.
oh, tonight? Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna do that later.
Well,
Okay,
let's
it's not on
just
the
do it
agenda, so
now.
I just
Let's
wanna-
just do it now.
Right.
So there was, the TAP project took forever to close out the sidewalk project. And we have $27,000 left over in that capital account. And so we'd like to, move that over to, the DB capital account. So it can be used for other capital uses in the highway department. And so that recommendation is in your folder. from there.
What number is
It's
that?
It's a budget adjustment.
It's not.
It was at the very beginning of the
It was the very
At the
beginning.
very beginning, I was gonna do an end of year financial
Actually, I don't
update.
see the resolution, I just
It's
see
not a
the memo.
It's not a resolution, but I still
Yeah.
move the budget adjustment as contained in the letter
You
from,
wanna see it? You wanna-
the bookkeeper.
You can take that one, sure, keep it for your records.
So you didn't get one of those?
No.
Oh. Okay.
So Bill, you moved?
yeah.
Did anybody second it? I'll second it.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Okay, so we took care of that. Shall we do some board reports?
Yeah.
It's getting late. All right, we don't have Harry or Christine with us tonight, so let's see if we can divvy things up.
I'll do the water report.
I'll do
The water
recreation.
report will be what Hank had to say today.
Ditto. Yeah.
Thorough enough.
Okay. Planning board, Sarah, would you like to
Sure,
do that?
happy to do planning board. Planning board met twice in March. They held a public hearing on the 276 Metzger Road lot line alteration. And they continue to review the following projects: the MC Acres / Buckesser Middle Road minor subdivision and lot line alteration, and the Traditions at Red Hook formerly TNT amended site plan and subdivision, which I just want to know, I believe has a public hearing coming up next planning board meeting, and there are some interesting changes to that, that site plan and subdivision, including construction of a community swimming pool, relocation of dwelling types, changes in the section plan, house styles and colors, revisions to the drainage grading, pavement materials and outdoor lighting fixtures. So I know many of us followed that project closely when it first came out, and it's just sort of fascinating to me, not as somebody who's seen what these new options are, but anyway, letting the people know. That's, I think, next planning board is the public hearing about that. And then they respond to our town board referral on local law B, the moratorium on large-scale commercial extractive operations, agreeing that we should extend the moratorium. And they granted a 90-day extension to Schaefer's Hudson Valley to satisfy the conditions of approval.
Thank you very much. Bill, did you want to do ZBA?
Well, the ZBA had a meeting on March 13th, and there was one case that was considered a request for a variance out in the country club section of the town of Red Hook around the lake at the country club. And it was discussed thoroughly, and the ZBA adjourned the meeting to schedule a public hearing on the application April 10, 2019.
Okay. Very good. Normally Harry would do the building and zoning. Who would like to
I
take
can do it.
Okay.
The month, March 2019, showed 20 permits were granted, 23 inspections were conducted, 18 COs and CCs were issued. There were 54 complaints that were considered by the building department. And the revenue collected by the building department in March of 2019 was $6,765.
And just to clarify on that complaint section, that's a sort of a form that he uses, but it's actually for expired permits. So they're mailing to folks, you may get one of these in the mail if you applied for a building permit, but it was not closed. They are sending out reminders just to let you know that it's not closed. Okay? All right. Highway Department. Harry's not here to give. Would
Teresa
you like to
read
do it? Oh, you read the whole
It
thing.
was the whole
yeah.
thing. She
Well,
read
there's
it.
one more thing, with the highway department, we did start our street sweeping
Okay.
program, and we put a notice on the website, and we linked to, not a schedule, but it's an overview of which section we do by the order we do them in. So there are 6 sections in the town that correspond with the plow routes, and as they go through each section, they'll get to the next one, but the timing can change depending on the weather,
Sure.
mechanical breakdown, and other projects that we might have going on. So if you're wondering when your street is going to be swept, you can always give us a call at the highway department, and we'll give you a tentative schedule for that.
Great. There we go. Thank you. Police Department.
The Reddick Police Department report shows that they had 86 incidents for the period that ended March 5th of 2019. There were a total of 9 arrests made by the Reddick Police Department, and 31 tickets were issued during that monthly period.
Good. I want to, Bill, if I could just jump in for a second and let folks know that unfortunately we've had a couple of incidents of some cars being broken into, unlocked vehicles where folks have taken some stuff, and so this would be sort of the public service announcement portion of tonight's meeting, just to let you know that it is occurring again within our township, and so you may want to take precautions. Also to let you know that we recommend you, as soon as you notice that, to call the Red Hook Police Department, 758-6780, and if you are able to also let me know so that I can allocate our resources in such a way that hopefully gets those issues addressed as quickly as possible. You can get my contact information, including both the office number and the cell phone number, on the website, and we just wanted to let you know that. Okay. We did water. Disaster Preparedness Committee. The committee reviewed the updated disaster plan. It was approved for submission to the town board. Updates and additions will be made to the appendices as needed, but the plan itself has been completed. Discussed outreach at Apple Blossom event. It's an opportunity to disseminate, I think that's the word that was meant there. Information on 911 signage requirements. Residents could order signs. Samples were provided at the meeting, and the possibility of offering assistance with installation was discussed. I think that needs more fleshing out. Short-term and long-term goals include planning for a tabletop exercise, photo IDs for emergency response team members, ensuring that all residents meet 911 requirements, identifying and addressing the needs of vulnerable populations and individuals. Committee will meet again on June 18th, 2019. Okay, Bill, we have a report of your task force.
Well, at weekly meetings in March, the task force continued to review the short-term rentals for the town of Red Hook. The goal of the task force is to seek to propose the adoption by the town board of balanced reasonable regulations governing short-term rentals, allowing citizens to share the economic benefit of their property while protecting and preserving neighborhood character and long-term housing availability and affordability. And in this connection, the task force is looking at a couple of proposed drafts of an operating permit and uses allowed in varying zoning districts for lodging and STRs in the town of Red Hook.
From a zoning perspective, this is what they would call a hot topic that many and all communities are trying to figure out what they need to do about it. Harry's not here to do recreation. Would you be kind enough to do it, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the annual fishing contest will be held on April 13th, Saturday, sponsored by the Red Hook Rod and Gun Club. So everybody, I don't know, how do people sign up for that? Do you know?
They don't, I think
They
they
don't?
just show
They
up.
just
You just show up?
Just
Okay,
show
so just show up.
Is there an age range?
I don't see one. Do you know, does Rod and Gun Club have a website or?
Yeah, I think they can contact the rec department, or they can send word to my office and I can get it. I do believe that almost all children are accommodated for this event. We stock the, don't tell the kids that, but we stock it, yeah.
Do people need to bring their own equipment or do you know?
Yeah, I think you do need to bring your own equipment for that. I'm not a fisherman, so I'm the last person to ask
Right,
them
no,
this,
I'm
yeah.
not either. Anyway, so that will be happening Saturday, April 13th. If you're interested, contact Town Hall or reach out to someone that's related to the Rod and Gun Club. And then I'm just gonna sort of summarize the rest, which is just like, generally speaking, there's a lot going on at the rec park this spring and early summer, and it's really exciting. You're gonna have to bear with us a little bit. It's not always going to be just what it has been in the past in terms of like maybe sometimes parking will be a little different, or some of your favorite spots might be under construction. But good news is we did get, just today we got notice, I think, that the power has been restored now to the rec facility. That was a whole big process that John and his team of people had to go through, but that's been restored. And then the snack bar kitchen renovations have been completed. So all of that is really huge and it's gonna be really nice. And the next thing I think is the playground community build, which Robert already mentioned. Again, it's the first 2 weekends in May, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, except for not Sunday, Mother's Day. So the goal is to be done before Mother's Day, which is May 12th. And we'd love it if you could sign up to build with us on the website redhookplays.com, or contact somebody at Town Hall. I'm sure we could take your name down and pass it to somebody, but if we know who's coming, that helps us plan. Lots of community partners are like donating food and all kinds of things to volunteers. It's gonna be a really fun time, and anybody of any ability can come and help, and so that's gonna be really exciting. And then along with that, there are gonna be all kinds of other improvements. There's tennis court bounce ball boards, there's wind screening, there's parking lot fencing, there's wind screening for the pavilion, there's just, obviously we've talked many times about the restroom improvements, so there's just a lot going on. If you have questions, you can always call John's office, questions or concerns, but just know that John is really on top of it. He's got huge binders full of all the details that's going on, and it's all really exciting, so
Yeah.
that's the update.
We thank them all for all their hard work.
Yeah.
We have a senior services report. Bill, would you like to
Yeah,
read
the Senior Services Committee met
report?
in January 3rd and March 15th. And they organized what's called the Bard College Center for Civic Engagement Day of Service, which was last January 20th. But they did a table there that organized students on the weatherization program for seniors, and it was a very successful event. And the committee at that, also one of their meetings, decided to join with the Red Hook Community Center to put on the Senior Expo April 27th, which the supervisor has already announced in our announcement time. And they're going to participate with the community center to bring that about. Their next meeting will be held at Red Hook Community Center, 9:30 in the morning, this Friday, March 29th. And of course, anyone interested in joining the Senior Services Committee is welcome to attend that meeting.
Great, thank you, Bill. Tree preservation, Sarah?
Okay, we've got one of our hardworking members here tonight, Linda. So you correct me if I'm wrong, but here's what the report says. It says, new tree care manuals have arrived. Now, is that for the public? Like the public can have those manuals? Okay, so if you're interested in a tree care manual, what, can they come into town hall or should they contact the committee?
Probably contact the chairman.
I think it's on the website.
Yeah.
Do you remember? I think your committee contact is on the website. Okay. A large stump has been removed from the north side of the west end of Pitcher Lane. Nobody attended the Tree City luncheon this year, but I think we still get to be a Tree City, right? Just because you didn't go to the lunch, right?
Because we didn't pick up our stuff.
Yeah, okay, but we're still a Tree City, don't worry. And then there's going to be, as usual, a great celebration for Arbor Day here at Town Hall on Saturday, April 27th.
Yeah.
I'll bet that's when you can get your brochures.
You could probably come then and get your tree care manual. You could, there's going to be tree themes.
We have to limit the number that go out on those.
Okay, so
they're
first come,
slick.
first come, first served.
They cost about $2 each.
Okay, so
limited number.
Limited number, first come, first served. And then committee member Eleanor Friery, as she does every year, is going to be doing tree walks and a poster contest with Mill Road School students, and that's always really beautiful. And you can see the poster, or only the poster winners, or a lot of the posters are displayed here for everybody to see.
Shown here.
Yeah, so it's going to be really nice. So April's going to be a busy month for tree. Are you going to do tree planting too? I know we've talked about that in the past, but it's not on here. There will be.
We also hope that the Rotary can give us.
Yeah, Rotary will be helping. Yeah, so it's going to be a busy month for tree planting.
So anyone going down Pitcher Lane, all those nice trees there.
Yeah. It does look really nice. Yeah, the Pitcher Lane especially is looking really nice. Yeah, thanks to Rotary and Tree Committee. That's all we got. Done.
Right. Well, we are just about the end of the meeting. We have one piece of correspondence, and that's from New York State Department of Transportation. That is from Sandra Little, who's the Director, Office of Civil Rights. She writes that, Dear Mr. McKeon, the New York State Department of Transportation Office of Civil Rights has completed its review of your civil rights compliance assurances. At this time, our office has concluded that the town is currently found in compliance with all applicable federal regulations mandated for a civil rights assurance program. And this was triggered because we have the grant funding for the electric vans to move seniors and folks with additional challenges around our community. So it's good we passed that. And that's all I have before we go into attorney-client. Does anybody want to, Linda, you want to make some more public comments?
Okay. The March 22nd meeting that you had, which was sort of an emergency meeting, will there be minutes from that meeting?
Yes, there are.
Oh, okay. Because when you posted it, it didn't have an agenda or anything. Nobody knew what it was about. And the second thing is, I want you to think about St. Margaret's. It's sitting there. It needs funding. It needs a committee. I was on the committee in the past and we had a good working group. You need to get some people excited about it. To have a building that has no use, even if it's historic, is not a good thing.
We're one day ahead of you. John and I met yesterday about it. So yes, we're on the same page that we got to put it to good use, and I think that
and can it get CPF funds?
No, it cannot.
Why not?
I mean, it can get some maintenance funds, but CPF is designed primarily for acquisition. There is a small portion that can go towards maintenance. That aside, you know, I think that we can come up with something that's manageable for that property and something that is sustainable without
at one
Right.
point, HRH was looking into having meetings there.
Yeah.
I mean, you really need to.
Those are kind of appropriate uses, and I think
Yeah.
we can do that. I know some folks that.
Having art classes there with paint is not. And you've got historic windows going down to the floor. Don't want to have kids near those
I know
windows.
Christine Cannon and I had talked about trying to look at the state grant cycle for this summer to see if maybe there might be something that would fit,
Yeah.
so we'll,
Yeah, it didn't appraise high enough to get additional funding.
yeah.
And so that was the challenge, but that was years ago during the downturn in the real estate market, so maybe enough time and value, because one of the things we wanna let you know is property values are going up in the town of Red Hook. And our tax roll is increasing. I didn't really do a financial update, just to let you know that the audit report sent to the comptroller's office has been transmitted, and maybe at the next meeting I'll dedicate a few minutes just to giving you the highlights of what 2018 results are, but one of the things you should know is our tax rolls are increasing here in the township, so.
And I want to give a shout out to John Kuhn and his rec park employees for keeping up that property,
Yeah,
so it looks
it
nice.
looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Great, thank you very much, Linda. Anybody else have any more comments tonight? If not, I would like to make a motion, we go into attorney-client. All in favor?
Who seconds
I
it?
think I'll second it.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye, thank you all for joining us. Okay.